I used to have a church home. It's where my parents got married. It's where my brother and I were baptized and we did our first communion. I was a part of the choir. My brother was an altar boy. We were both members of the youth group. I even babysat the pastor's grandchildren one summer. Outside of home and school, you could always find us at church. My brother and I, as we got older, it was a little harder to force him to continue to go to church. So it became a thing that my mom and I would do. We'd head out on Sunday mornings. And when we got there, I would go downstairs to Sunday school and she would go upstairs to service. And afterwards, we'd stop at McDonald's before heading home for a nice lunch. I now realize the importance of the little things because those are memories that I will continue to cherish. When I was 17, my mother died and I needed my church family more than ever. In the months that followed, I yearned for purpose. So when the church decided to open up a summer camp, I became a counselor. Working with children was something that brought me joy, so I wanted to be a part of that. My friends and I decided that we were going to embark on this journey together. But to our surprise, the pastor's nephew, let's call him Mark, also decided that he was going to work at the camp that summer. Now, Mark, we didn't see him often because he was in military school and he only came around for those special holidays. So Christmas and Easter and Mother's Day. So you could imagine our excitement when we found out that he was going to be spending the summer with us. We all had big crushes on him, and I'm sure that he knew it. So while we were working, if he'd look over and smile, we'd all giggle. He had this really cute dimple, so we were just silly. We were putty in his hands. I always got butterflies in my stomach whenever I was around him. At some point, he started to notice me and he took interest. And we exchanged numbers and decided that we were going to get to know each other a little bit better. But we wanted to keep it on the down low because we didn't want the church folk in our business. But it seems like we weren't very good at it because people started to kind of wonder and notice that something might be going on. And one of those individuals was Mark's uncle, who was a very well-respected member of the church community. One day after, work, I was about to leave the building and Mark's uncle calls to me in a serious tone, which automatically put me, I was on eggshells. Because like I said, he was well respected. He was an elder in the church. So, he was very serious and that made me a little nervous. So I come over to him and we are standing inches apart. And he says to me, Gabrielle, I know that you and my nephew are, beginning to get to know each other a little bit better, but I want to warn you, he's a very bad guy. That's why we sent him to military school. You're nice, sweet, smart. We've seen you grow into such a beautiful young lady. If I was his age, I would want to rape you. And at that point, I didn't hear anything else. I was taken aback by the fact that someone who had known me since I was a kid, could actually say something like that to me. So I kind of zoned out and he continued to speak and I just saw his lips moving, didn't really hear what he was saying. And then when I assumed that he was done speaking, I kind of nodded nervously and turned around, walked out of that building and never looked back. I felt betrayed. I felt terrified, I was embarrassed, and I felt extremely guilty for a very long time. I felt betrayed because, like I said, this man had known me since I was a baby practically. He knew my mother, he knew my brother, he knew a lot of my family. And to think that he could so freely say something like that to me, if I was your age, I would rape you, was completely mind-blowing. I was terrified because if he could so easily say those words to me, what else was he capable of? Was he testing the waters to see how I would react and then based on my reaction, say maybe I could take it a little bit further. I felt embarrassed because did I make him so comfortable that he thought saying those words to me and speaking to me in that way was okay? How could I allow myself to be victimized and violated and then pick flight over fight? So I was very torn about the decision that I had made. And I felt extremely guilty for a number of reasons. I had abandoned my church family and friends that I had loved so dearly with no explanation. I ran. I stopped calling his nephew, even though he treated me with the utmost respect. I thought, what could your uncle be teaching you? Could I expect something like this from you? I felt guilty because I never told this man that what he said to me was extremely disrespectful, keeping the door open for him to possibly say or do something to, another young girl or a woman to make her feel as violated as he had made me feel. And I didn't tell anyone about this experience because of the fact that I was so embarrassed by it. I didn't allow the people in my life that I know would have protected me to do so. This guilt overwhelmed me for a very, very long time. Years later, I don't know what prompted me, but I finally shared this experience with one of my best friends who was more than ready to pull off the earrings, throw her hair in a ponytail, throw the Vaseline on her face, and kick this man's ass. And it made me begin to forgive myself for all that I was feeling. Hearing someone else tell me that what he said had nothing to do with me and was not my fault is truly what I needed to hear in order to heal. I was so worried about ruining this man's reputation because he was an elder, because he was the pastor's brother, because everyone respected him, that I completely neglected my feelings. Since that time, I've grown from being that vulnerable 17-year-old. And, as a mother of 3 girls who I sometimes tell, if anyone touches you or makes you feel uncomfortable, I'll end up in jail because I will come after them. I have to maybe change that a little bit because that might put fear into their hearts of, not sharing their stories. But I have no doubt that if that same conversation were to take place now, it would be very different, because I am more confident and more sure of myself. I was one of the lucky ones because this situation, although it scarred me, I got away before, anything more could have happened. But unfortunately, many others, aren't that lucky and they're victimized and they're violated. And I think it's extremely important for all of us to know that we hold the power and we should never be ashamed of, speaking up and sharing our story when we've done nothing wrong. And I think it's extremely important to continue sharing these stories in order to help ourselves heal and, to help others heal as well.